Hello and welcome to today's video. It is the first official day of winter, so happy winter everyone. And today we're starting my winter makeup series. I'm changing the name just a little bit from my fall color series. So if you're familiar with that, in the fall, I did the first series on my channel that I've done in that nature where I picked fall colors and I made videos that featured palettes and things that would give me those fall colors or vibes. And then I featured 4 looks from that. So this series is very similar, but we're changing things up just a little because I realized that I change my makeup wearing preferences a little bit when we move into winter. I admittedly wear a little less color during winter. I start to go kind of more soft, cool to neutral kind of tones. And I still do some pops of color, so you will see the second video in the series will include like cheek products and lip products that I like to wear in winter. I gave them their own video, but you should expect some other videos where this one obviously today is going to cover neutral tones and cooler tones. Then we have some mauves, we have some jewel tones, and then we'll have like some sparkle and shine too. So if you're excited to just kind of chat winter favorites, keep an eye open for this series, but let's go ahead and get into today's video. Okay, as we get started with today's video, if you'll remember from the fall color series, if you managed to catch that, I included 4 looks with all of those videos, but I also talked about other palettes that I could have used and included in those videos. Today I have 2 palettes that I'll show you that do not have looks with them, and then I actually have 5 looks for today's videos to show you. But let's go ahead and cover the 2 palettes that do not have looks associated with them. Like I said before, in the wintertime, I start to move towards soft, neutral, cool tones, softer shades. I guess it maybe matches the mood of like the snow starting to fall and things just being a little bit more dim and dark here, at least in Sweden. I kind of like to kind of go a little lighter. Maybe it helps me feel a little bit better about the fact that we're in perpetual darkness this time of year. But one of the palettes that I have to mention that I love getting like kind of softer looks from occasionally is the Modern Renaissance palette. It's got this beautiful mauve tone. Also this shade here in Warm Taupe is a really good one to just kind of softly go like create a halo eye. And then Primavera and Vermeer are shimmers that I tend to like the shimmer formula in the newer palettes from ABH, but these are a little bit soft and they're still very, very beautiful. But they do have their place in my collection. Hopefully you can see that. It's a little bit washed out from my lights, but it's just a really nice palette if you want to get some softer looks from. I also have featured this in the fall color series, but again, Golden Ochre is another nice one. And then if I wanted to deepen my outer corner but not make it too deep, I could use Raw Sienna. It's just got some nice softer tones as well as some like deeper vampy tones, but I wanted to give this palette a shout out. Okay, the next palette I wanted to shout out was the Sultry Palette. You'll see this in another video this week, but this one here is also a really nice one to get softer looks from. Now these shimmers compared to the ABH Modern Renaissance they're way more intense, like way more. Let me swatch one for you. I'll swatch Rose Quartz here. I didn't really even get that much on my hand, but hopefully you'll be able to see like so much more high impact than like Primavera or Vermeer. But I do love some of these tones on my eyes for winter. Specifically, Birch and Twig are really nice soft shades. I'm going to talk about Slate and Cyborg in another video, but if I want like a really nice soft look, I can also kind of go with either Ember or Teak or Cinder. Some of those shades are really nice and soft. Also, Rose Quartz is a little bit softer, and I just find that they're really beautiful on the eyes to give you like kind of a soft ethereal look during winter. Okay, now for the fun part, let's get into the 5 looks that I have prepared for this video. The first one comes from my Norvina palette. This one, I wanted to showcase the versatility of this palette because I think when you look at it, your eyes are immediately drawn to like those pink tones and those purple tones. And they also have a couple different like warm tones down here that you wouldn't think. I know when I first saw this palette, I thought, wow, that is colorful. But honestly, the reason why this palette is probably my #1 favorite in my collection is because it's so daggone versatile. So the look that you're gonna see is really simple. I put incense on my inner and outer corner. I fluffed it into my crease, kind of created a halo eye, and I used Dreamer, just tapped it on the lid. And it's so soft and beautiful and it looks intentional. And I just think I feel like really put together with this look, even though it's super, super simple. Again, I just want to show you a little swatch of Dreamer here because it's like this beautiful, perfect, neutral kind of champagne shade. Such a beautiful shade, and this is one of the ones that I use a lot during winter because I love the tone of that look so much. So I wanted to show this one in this video. Okay, look number 2 is coming from my Lorac Pro 3 palette, and this one is one that ends up being a really good cool tone look that I kind of go to during the winter. I actually use like 3 shades, I think. I use Cool Taupe in my crease, dark brown in my outer corner, and then this shade here, Rose Bronze, is such a beautiful, it's a very soft metallic shade. So while it is definitely a shimmer, it's not something that looks like on your like eyes like you have, like it's not gonna pull as intense as something like an ABH metallic, but I think it looks really good, especially if you have like mature lids with some creasing or some aging signs. This shade for me is one that always looks really good and like flawless on my eyes, and I think that the softness of this look really helps when I want to wear Popsicolor. So you're actually going to see this look in the second video that will come up tomorrow on this channel. I thought it was the perfect look to show you while I was wearing all of this Popsicolor on my lips. So this is one that I really love to wear, especially when I'm doing a bold lip. So you'll see that again in tomorrow's video. Okay, the third look is coming from my Truly Madly Deeply ColourPop palette, and this one is one that is more neutral rather than cool tone. So I've mentioned this palette in a couple videos recently, and I've said that I haven't really fallen in love with the color story, mostly because there aren't that many pops of color. I think I'm someone who really likes those neutral palettes with the pop of color. I start to feel really inspired by those palettes, and this one is just really soft in general. It's got some purples in there, but even the purples are kind of muted down. I do really like the purples in this palette, but I wanted to do some softer looks. I think that if I didn't have such a large collection, this would be a palette that I would absolutely fall in love with because the quality of these shades are really nice. So for the look that I'm talking about today, I used Matter of Fact to set my lid. I do really like that shade as a like lid setting shade. It actually does provide a little bit of like coverage, really good pigmentation to be a cream shade. Then I went in with Golden Gate Bridge in my crease. I put Made to Last on my outer corner, which they look so similar in the pan, but I find that this one is just slightly darker and maybe has an even cooler undertone than it looks like in the pan here. And then on my lid, I used this shade called Sweet Dreams here, which is a really pretty kind of like a gold, but it has almost like a little peach kind of undertone to it. I don't think they market this as a duochrome, but as you can see, compared to like Dreamer from Anastasia, it does pull a little bit more peach, at least on my skin tone for whatever reason. But I really like the way that look came out, and this is a beautiful palette if you want if you're someone who wears a ton of soft tones. Now, again, I don't wear a ton of soft tones until wintertime, and probably even more in the springtime, because I do kind of carry that trend of softer, lighter tones into the spring too. Okay, for the fourth look, let's talk about what I'm wearing on my eyes today. I have the Night and Day palette from Revolution Pro. This is a dupe for one of the Pat McGrath Subliminal palettes, and as you can see here, I'll zoom you in a little bit. Hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit of like a duochrome kind of action on my eyelids today. And so what I have going on today is I did put this shade kind of on my brow bone area, and then I fluffed this all over my lid and into my crease. Whenever you're gonna use duochromes, it's always helpful to kind of build on top of like a matte shade to get like the most kind of flip from your duochromes. Like hopefully you can see that there. When you build that up on a matte shade, it's gonna flip just a little bit more. So like I said, I have this all over my eyelid and in my crease. I did fluff it into my crease pretty high. I had a little bit of trouble building this shade up here on the outside of my corners of my eyes. I also used a little bit of this tapped in. Again, I've mentioned this palette recently in a couple videos, and this is one that I have to kind of work with a little bit more. I think if you own the Pat McGrath version, you would probably be able to deposit that color that you want immediately and not have to build and build and build. And then I did put a glitter glue down on my eyelid for this shade. And so just to be clear, I had the matte shade down, I put glitter glue down, and then I put this on top. So you are able to see, hopefully it comes across on camera, that kind of duochrome shift. It kind of goes like a little bit of red in it, a little bit of blue, but also a little bit of like purple in some light. And while I'm not crazy about the quality of this palette, I love the looks that I get from this palette. This one and the one that you'll see in another video soon, specifically being the two that I love the most. Like I really like those looks. So for me, this is worth keeping, even though it's not the best quality, because I think it's worth the fight with this palette to get these looks. I really love this shadow on my eyes today. Okay, I'm zooming you back out, and I'm gonna talk about a palette that I recently got for the fifth look. This is kind of a bonus look in that there's a shade in this palette that reminds me a lot of what I'm wearing today. But admittedly, when I look back at the footage of when I was wearing this palette, it is a little softer. So I was gonna mention this palette here. This is the Sigma Enchanted palette, and as you can see, this shade here called Metamorphosis looks a lot like, at least in the pan, looks a lot like what's going on my eyes today. And I wore this palette the exact same way pretty much as I did today, in terms of I made sure to have a matte down and I wore the shade over glitter glue. Okay, so what I did that day, I put in quartz all over my eye to set my lid. I used Innocent like into the crease, kind of worked it up a little bit high. I put Loam, which is this like more cool tone brown on the outer corner. And the Metamorphosis I put down over glitter glue onto my eyelid. And hopefully you'll be able to see in the look compared to what I'm wearing now. This is just ever so slightly lighter than what I'm wearing currently. I tried to swatch it for you, but like that's the shade I'm currently wearing on my eyelid, and this is the one from Sigma. So you can see that the one that I'm currently wearing just has a little bit more base pigment to it, and the one from Sigma is just a little bit more sheer, but definitely a little bit more sparkly probably than what I have in the Night and Day palette here. I think in the future when I try this look again, I want to try putting Loam all over my eyelid and into my crease versus just Innocent into the crease and on the eyelid, and just see if that transforms this Metamorphosis shade, because maybe with a slightly darker base it would look even more like what I have going on today. But I'm really curious. That'll be something that I play with soon, since this palette is new to me. I literally just got it like a week and a half ago or so. So that is it for today's video. Make sure you let me know in the comments how you're doing. What palettes do you like to pull for neutral tones and for cool tones? Like I said, we have a lot of other videos to get through this week. And again, the rundown is tomorrow, expect a like face palette and lip video specifically. No eyeshadow looks in that one, but I promise it's still gonna be a lot of fun. And then on Wednesday, you'll see mauves. On Thursday, you'll see jewel tones. And on Friday, you'll see the sparkle and shine and everything beautiful like the holidays would remind you of. So again, that's it for today's video. Make sure you say hello, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.